When I joined the eyewear industry, I was very, very unhappy.
Can you tell us a few challenges that you faced?
So when we started OPIUM Eyewear at Shoppers Stop, I think first 3 days we had zero sales, and we were wondering whether we are any good or what's really going to happen. As soon as around 4 months or 5 months down the line, we started receiving products back. What became our main success story became our biggest failure. If you ask me what I want to do next, I would like to do, for example, an OPM X Parle G.
Industry has evolved a lot, but also there's like players like Lenskart. How is it that you then manage to sort of make your brand stand out?
You don't need to really look at the big guys because big guys come with their own problems. You can look at yourself and having an advantage of being small, and people not really object.
In today's fast changing times, what do you do to keep your brand relevant?
The way that we kind of be relevant is that we move with our consumers.
One fine day, right before COVID, I decided to quit my job. I actually looked back at my savings and I was like, suddenly this number is looking great.
Not bad, huh?
Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Happy Hour with FinCocktail. Today we have someone with us who owns an eyewear business. You must have heard of the brand called OPIUM. They're present in over 30 stores across the country. They work with 1,000 plus opticians and it's available in over 200 department stores across the country. So let's welcome Mr. Ronak Sheth. Hi, how are you?
Hi, thank you very much. I'm super excited to come to this show. And honestly, little afraid as well because this is my first podcast, but I'm excited more than the afraid part, and I'm happy it's doing with you guys, and that's the best I can imagine happening as of today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here and we're glad to have you. So, Ronak, tell me, how did OPM Eyewear come about? And tell us a little bit about your family business.
Okay, so basically, I'll get on to the family business first, and then go in the chronological order.
Sure.
So typically, it's a legacy business that I inherited from my, father, and it wasn't something that I started. So I wouldn't claim, to have that fame of starting a new business completely. But like a typical Gujarati family, we are all businessmen, and usually the children inherit the business of the elders. So I'm one of those. So typically, we are three founders of this company called Eternity Lifestyles, which is me, Ronak, and my brother Kiran, and my partner Deepak. So we are three people who founded this company, and we have been in this business since last more than 30 years. I mean, I would not like to say it, but probably we are nearly 100 years old in experience in this business together between the three of us. But that's like going back and becoming old, but that's not what it is. Anyway, so that is the base, and we've been eyewear distribution. That's our forte and our legacy. We got distribution and we got brands in India, like for example, Luxottica, which is the world's largest eyewear company. We were their distributors in India for 18 years, wherein we got brands like Chanel, Bulgari, and a couple of other brands for India exclusively. So we're very proud of that kind of heritage of luxury. After that, we also got brands like Cartier, Montblanc, Oakley, and a lot of other exciting brands, either luxury or sport, exciting and difficult at the same time. So that was another exciting part to kind of work with difficult brands in India at that point of time. Now it's more easy, but the consumer at that time and the wealth of the nation at that time was much different than what it is today. Yeah. So that's the legacy, and post that, I mean, we've been doing a lot of these brands. Currently, our distribution division also works and represents Maybach, which is the world's most expensive luxury eyewear. We also represent Chrome Hearts, another super exciting niche eyewear, which is hardly known, but people who know it a lot. That is like really epitome of how luxury should be. And then we do Balmain and Valentino as well. These are the four internationally strong and domestically logical brands. In fact, one of the brand we are world number one. India is the world number one market for Maybach. So that is something that I'm very proud of.
And you guys are the sole distributors for.
Yes, correct. So we are the sole distributors for these brands, and we are basically not like typical distributors, which is CNF agents or something like that. But we represent the brand. We are market makers. We are price makers. We do the price discovery, market discovery, consumer, promotions, advertising. So unlike an FMCG brand, international accessories brand don't operate on that level. We are typically doing just about everything the brand does, but in a different country, and we
Okay.
just don't own the brand. So that's the base of our business, the historical background. And then of course we started OPM, which is something that I'm very very excited about. And if you talk to people in our industry, at least they know that I breathe and live OPM all the time, other than consuming it. So that's that's what I'm happy about. And I think what we've done is created a very exciting brand. And what we really believe is that brands should be interesting, and brands today are not templated anymore. They are very very evolving all the time, as
Hmm.
evolving as the consumer. So that's what OPM is as of today. I think it's India's most interesting sunglass and optical frame brand.
Wow, really cool. So I do believe that you have a background in finance, and at some point you made that shift into the eyewear industry. So what led about to that decision?
So, so I don't know what is accidental, whether me getting into finance or me getting into marketing and creating a brand. But I mean, accidentally getting into finance was a very social reason. Making things a little bit light. But my father-in-law wanted somebody who has 2 degrees, so I had to do the MBA. And in that, I think the logical part, because I was surrounded by a lot of people in the financial services field, I did an MBA in finance, and thereafter, I worked in a financial services firm for 4 years. Then I tried to do my own business in financial services uh, for at least 2 years more. And then there was a little shift in the family orientation of the business, and my father called me to kind of back him up and my brother in the family eyewear business. So then that's how I came back in the eyewear, started to be in the eyewear business.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, both were not like a choice that I made on my own. Like one fine day, I want to do this, I'll do that. Both are
It sort
accidental
of
in
just
nature. Yeah,
happened.
it just happened. Yeah.
Okay. So since your family's got such a long-standing presence in the eyewear industry, what sort of were the key learning lessons for you when you were starting with OPM?
Well, I would like to just preempt a little bit again. I mean, obviously, this is about OPM, but this is also about the industry. And I think people should know more and more about the industry and then the brands within. So when I joined the eyewear industry, I was very, very unhappy, very, very unhappy, because when you're from the financial services, you look at big numbers, you look at big things, you have a far easier life than a average kind of a marketing kind of a or a distribution led business. So when I came in, I went into an industry which was not so organized at that point of time. It was just at the sort of beginning of liberalization in India. So we didn't really have imported was the only brand sort of to say, and it was not really the brands that we talk about as much. So, and it was a very sort of closed minded industry, very margin driven and
Hmm.
only relationship driven. And these are not the very typical things that you go in a financial services.
Hmm.
We are definitely money driven in a financial services, but not as much as bending over relationships too much.
Correct.
But eyewear was a very relationship driven industry. And we had to be personally available at everywhere.
Hmm.
And that was very demanding. And also the fact that I went in, and then like a zero in the business, right?
Hmm.
So I had to learn everything fresh from start. So I did sales, I did product, I did marketing, I did sales visits all across the country, including at that point of time, like going into Kerala, which was a very interesting place. At that point of time, Kerala was a sort of the consumer capital of India. So going to Kerala, visiting and doing business, taking samples, like a 20 kilo bags, and traveling for 20 days within Kerala. So these were things that were unusual from me. In my financial services background, I used to travel to major financial places,
Correct.
capitals in Delhi and Bombay, Bangalore, go in easy, transportation logic. Here it was much more difficult. So, I mean, in that way, I would say it was a very smaller, much
Hmm.
smaller industry, very relationship driven and very physical oriented.
Hmm.
You couldn't really manage business from far.
Hmm.
And the numbers were very small. So what was really problem for me was to accept the fact that it's very, very small numbers compared to what I did earlier. So those were the typical kind of entry problems that I faced upon. And then looking at opium, I think opium wasn't very difficult to start with, because by then I had a long experience with the industry. uh, and I think some of the challenges were more mental for us, because we were predominantly a distribution company. We were
Hmm.
not our own brand, we were selling other people's brands. So the whole fact of learning something new, creating a brand, marketing a brand, creating a product, because we were also not product makers. We just took brands from international companies and they had made the product, design, everything. So it was completely new. In that sense, the challenge was it's like a new business completely. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, the market was not the challenge, but everything other than the market was a challenge.
Right. Right. So when you started OPM, how did you manage to sort of differentiate it from the other players in the market? Because I believe that by the time opium was launched, the market had also evolved a little bit, the Indian eyewear market. There were a lot of other brands that had come into play. So what was the differentiating factor that you were sort of looking at when you launched opium?
Sure. So when we launched Opium, and prior to even launching Opium, when we decided that we want to do a brand, we were very sure that we don't want to do something that already exists, because most of the time it was at that age of the business and the industry, it was more like a commodity based logic. It was not really a brand based logic. So in that sense, we were sure that we wanted to do something which is brand and not a commodity. And of course, the heritage of working with brands like Cartier or Oakley, who have either whose base is
Hmm.
product, right?
Hmm.
I mean, these are not just well marketed brands; they are well made products as well. So that gave us an edge, that we always wanted to have a product first policy, right? So all our efforts have been to create the best product available at the best suitable price which a consumer is happy to accept. That was one differentiator that we thought we'll always do. The other part was, as the name itself, it's very unusual for a name to be opium in
Yeah.
that sense. So, I mean, living life a little bit, off, like, today you have off white, for example.
Hmm.
So, living life a little off is what we like to do.
Hmm.
And in that, opium sounded very exciting to kind of take in it as a brand name. But one thing that we did very clearly from that time, and we continue to doing today, is that the whole part about the brand being more interesting.
Hmm.
Okay, so from a marketing angle, I mean, I'm talking little marketing though, but when you see today, you see, the whole, four piece of marketing or Kotler that we,
Hmm.
kind of read in college, is changing a lot. You can't be very segmented anymore, because the consumer that you are talking to is not the consumer who's remaining the same throughout his
Yeah.
journey. I mean, at that point of time, we used to talk about templated, businesses and one size fits all kind of rules. Today, if I'm creating a product for example, a doctor in the day, the same doctor is having a tattoo and in a sleeveless t-shirt, he's a DJ in the night.
Yeah.
So how can I remain, true to one part and forget everything about him? Because the consumer is evolving. So there is a lot of interestingness to the person.
Hmm.
And that's how, as a brand, we from the beginning, we've always thought that we want to be very interesting, and that is what is driving us. We don't really have a template for the business, to be very honest. On a marketing side, we are happy to be changing our colors as often as possible. As our price positioning is very elastic, we are very playful on our pricing, but the only thing we want to be is we want to be premium on positioning.
Hmm.
So that's what we say. We are not cheap, we are not expensive, we are very playful. So these were some of the things that we carried on from the beginning, that we want to be interesting. We can be changing at whatever point of time. It gives us the flexibility to be totally different to what we have been and what we can be. And product quality at its best.
Hmm.
So that those are the core values that we always knew we wanted to get into and remain committed to for our brand opium.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, everything is manufactured here?
No, unfortunately, it's not manufactured here. We are trying every day to increase the Indian manufacturing, but typically, I would say as of now, we have like a 25 to 30% at the most manufactured in India. 70% is all China still.
Okay. Okay.
And we are waiting for the, because we are not manufacturers, right? So we are designers and marketing company. But the fact is that Indian manufacturing is now coming of age.
Hmm.
So now we are getting more and more excited to move a lot of production back to India.
Hmm.
And at least most of our optical frames, which are, one of the product is an acetate optical frame, they are 100% in India.
Okay.
So in that sense, we are moving parts and stuff to India. And I would give credit to the Indian manufacturing industry that they are also coping up with the change and becoming very open minded and innovating in nature.
Nice. Now, when it comes to branding and marketing, I feel like the industry has evolved a lot. Like, you see a lot of different players. I don't know if I can still call the industry fragmented, because I feel like it is. But also, there's like players like Lenskart, and their presence is only sort of increasing online and offline. So how is it that you then manage to sort of make your brand stand out in the crowd?
So first and foremost, I think Lenskart is doing an amazing job. I mean, um, the kind of expansion they've done, the kind of products they are created, and the kind of visual identity and the demand and the want from the consumer. That's like an unheard of situation.
Yeah.
So, full marks to them. In terms of how we are different to Lenskart, I mean, in that sense, it's a little easy for us. We are so much smaller than Lenskart,
Hmm.
so we are not aiming in that sense to go after every Lenskart consumer. So we can always pick and choose what we want. So our designs, for example, I would say are more quirky in nature
Hmm.
than Lenskart. Our requirement for varieties of too many styling are not as often as we need, or Lenskart needs for that matter. So I mean, typically, what I've seen is when you are small, you are sort of more flexible and you can be more creative.
Hmm.
And when you start attaining, bigger and bigger sizes in terms of business size and all that, then you start losing that creativity
Correct.
and losing the flexibility to experiment.
Yeah.
So I think we are still pretty small compared to Lenskart, and we're in a very happy space. And this gives us the flexibility to do whatever we want, not really wondering about a lot of P&L perspective, and gives us the freedom to be, interesting, exciting. I again go on saying the word
Yeah.
interesting. So in that sense, as I mentioned, that we are very playful on our pricing. So we have products from like 1800 rupees till 10,000 rupees as well in our brand. And that's like, very unique, because otherwise, you are segmented at a particular price range. But we feel very confident when we bring out these kind of variable pricing,
Hmm.
is because every product is not price dependent. It's kind of, feeling dependent.
Hmm.
So in that sense, we have product which I'm wearing, for example, now, is the cheapest of our line. It's a part called OPIUM Colorphonia, which is the cool, easygoing thing, and not very logo driven, not too much in the face, doesn't have too much of effort.
Hmm.
It's a very easygoing and very similar to, kind of a cool Californian easy life, surf, skate, snow, and colorful. So we use that word in a mix up and put it like California. So it's for people who don't really want to kind of put up a strong statement on their face. Just want to go with the flow, and we that's the cheapest one, and it's also our best seller in the recent times. We have huge selection in terms of colors and
Yeah.
offerings, and people like it, and they are happy to wear it. And the same guy is also wearing a 10,000 rupee sunglass that we are just launching next week. This is our collab with Disney, with Marvel actually, for Iron Man.
Oh,
So we are
interesting.
launching a limited edition Iron Man X OPM collab, which is 10,000 rupees retail, and it looks 10,000, and in fact it looks even more than
Hmm.
10,000. So that's how we are. We are elastic in what we give. We are elastic in our thoughts, and yeah, I mean that's what is typically driving us. In terms of differentiation. And
Hmm.
I think Lenskart is in a different orbit and they have their own ways of looking at the market. We have our own ways of looking at our consumers. So, that question I would give an answer to any budding entrepreneur, as that you don't need to really look at the big guys, because
Hmm.
big guys come with their own problems.
Hmm.
You can look at yourself and having an advantage of being small,
Hmm.
and that gives you a lot of advantage to really experiment, to look around, to change things, to redo things, and people not really object towards it. When you are very really big, people are looking at you all the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and that's too
And
much
then
of
you have to
pressure.
think about other factors as well. Like you need to, like you said, you can't have as much variety. You'll probably have to focus on economies of scale,
Correct.
focus on larger production,
And you can't
bring down
you
your
can't
costs by that
you can't
extent.
afford to fail,
You can't.
because when you have those kind of numbers that you do, every effort that you do, every trial that you do kind of comes with those numbers. And if you and this is fashion, right? In fashion industry, if you fail, you can fail big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right, there's economies of scale and all that work against at some time, and work for as well
Yeah.
for some time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in terms of marketing your brand and bringing it to where it is at today, I mentioned in my intro that you have like 30 stores, you're working with 1,000 plus opticians. How did you get it to where it's at? What are a few strategies that you can sort of part with our viewers to actually sort of depict that journey?
Sure. I mean, the first part, for as a recommendation suggestion to everybody, product is the king. Please don't deviate from the fact that your product has to be perfect or very good, and don't push off any cost to make product what you really should have. Yeah. Okay. So
Sorry.
in terms of like marketing things, I mean, there is something, when you do things right, you also need to give time. So time is also an essence, that you can't do things fast. You need to take time. You need to create, recreate, design, redesign. You will fail. You will come across the right product fit, the right market fit. In terms of our marketing strategy, I would say, why we've been successful is that uh, that whole thing about we don't want to be templated is something that has really worked in our favor. If you see typical marketing strategies of brands these days, are that very easily they get into a relationship with a brand ambassador. We've not had a brand ambassador till date. um,
But I've seen Opium has a lot of celebrity
Correct.
endorsements
Yeah. So that's the whole
that have
point,
happened,
right?
right?
I mean, we've had many celebrities wearing our product. They're not endorsements at all.
Oh,
They are just them wearing because they think that's good.
okay.
That goes with their style, that goes with their image, that goes with their that day's attire. And we work with the best of celebrities, we work with the best of stylists, but the whole point is that the product should do the talk. It's not anything else. So we've had many situations where we've had a discussion from marketing companies asking us to kind of have a tie up with ABC celebrity for endorsements. But what we believe is that we have an identity of our own,
Hmm.
and the celebrity has an identity of their own. And most brands today work with A or B celebrity for a period of time, then they work with another celebrity for another period of time. For us, that doesn't really work, because we feel that our characteristic, our nature is something that we need to protect. And we don't want to have an overpowering nature or character of the celebrity. So in that sense, we've resisted this situation of celebrity endorsements, paid endorsements. And we are happy, because that also gives us a flexibility that most celebrities are happy wearing our product, because there is no other celebrity attached to it which is also competing for them. So that's what the reality is. You don't really need celebrity endorsements. There is a benefit to it as well. I'm not allowing the fact that there is a benefit to it, but we feel that if we were to do it, we would really do it by choosing the right person, and also having a financial implication, which is a large multiplier.
Hmm.
uh, it's not a feel good factor. We've had many times where our opticians would tell us, आप एक पोस्टर दे दो कोई सेलिब्रिटी का, हम वो लगा देंगे. But we've never done that. So many a times we do not have a very good visual identity at our stores. I mean, at our optical stores, through the trade channel, because they didn't want somebody like very artistic and very kind of unusual.
Hmm.
They just wanted a good looking face, which is a celebrity, either
Celebrity face,
international or
yeah.
domestic, and that would attract them. And we've had discussions and fights satisfying our internal team, including our sales team, because they would always say, "Sir, ye kar do, ye kar do, ye kar do." But eventually, now nobody's talking about it. Nobody wants that thing to be the predominant part of our business. And yeah, I mean, see, the thing is, try marketing strategies which are not necessarily the most easiest.
Hmm.
Our tie-up with Anaita Shroff Ajania,
Hmm.
so for fashion,
Hmm.
like if we needed to go to celebrities, or we go to the most amazing,
Stylist.
fashion, what can I say, legitimacy.
Hmm.
So Anaita, when we did the collab with her for the first time, she used to be the fashion editor at Vogue. I mean, how does it sound? I have a celebrity who's endorsing, or I have a design and a product tie-up with the fashion editor of Vogue.
Hmm.
I mean, that legitimacy is unusually multiplying than just a celebrity tie-up. So that is something that we did. Then this whole Marvel tie-up, we did Wakanda, then we did Captain America, and now we are launching Iron Man. So we did three tie-ups, limited edition, very small drops. So that also elevates our brand across the comparative table that is available onto the
And does that
consumer.
also open doors to the international market for you?
At this point of time, not yet, but there is a discussion that yesterday only we were having with a strong committed partner to take us international, especially because when they saw the Iron Man collection that we've done. Just as an example, Iron Man, the Edith style, which is Robert Downey Jr.'s patent style that he wears in the movie.
Yeah.
We've done a twist on it because there is no Iron Man collection complete without Edith, so as to say. So that's our twist on it. You will soon see in
Yeah.
the next 2 weeks when the product goes out. I'm very excited. So these kind of tie-ups, these kind of excitements. Then we are also having a couple of more discussions on doing some very interesting eyewear with a very unusual person. Again, it's not an endorsement, but it's a way of life. It's a way of
Correct.
interestingness. So I hope that I'm very excited on that. I mean, I hope that runs in. And if you ask me what I want to do next, I would like to do, for example, an OPMX Parle G, an OPMX, social as a restaurant,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
those are the things I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
That's the consumer that we want. That's a consumer who wants us.
Correct.
Those are the evolving people.
So I'm just moving to the other aspect of your business where you mentioned that you've introduced a lot of global luxury brands to the Indian market, like a Cartier or a Maybach. So, what have been the typical challenges that you faced for a successful integration of these brands into the market and
So,
acceptance? I mean,
sure.
I feel like these are uber luxury brands. Acceptance at that particular price point is also something. Um,
So I think one of the thing that kind of gives us a success, or is predominantly necessary, is that you have to bring the whole range to India. The earlier times in India, we used to always like get pieces and stuff and little bit here and there, and that's why nobody used to take the brand seriously. When we grew up, for example, the best shoe was Nike, and all we could get is like maybe some five options of Nike. So those were the times that there was a shortage of things and you couldn't really get everything. But with this whole liberalization coming in, the successful businesses are the ones which actually got the international range at the same time in India as they were released all over the world. So this was one important aspect.
yeah.
The other aspect was also about pricing. The pricing was also necessary, that it is more or less similar, a bit here and there
Mm.
on the international price point. Because what used to happen is that Indians never used to buy in India.
Yeah.
They were always traveling and buying abroad because of two factors: one, it is cheaper there,
And
or it is
availability.
available there. Now when both these factors came in to be non-existent, it became more easy for Indians to buy in India. And of course, when you buy luxury goods within the country, you have the advantage of service, which is after sales, during wearing as well. And you have a lot of issues that can come up. which you have your local optician, for example, who's a typical friend, right?
Hmm.
Most of us go to our local optician who's our friend, and he's in a position to help you out much easier. And then he comes to us as distributors, and we are in a position to help our customers much easier. And the time taken to do all these services far lesser. So, I mean, these were some of the early challenges. Now, the other part of the challenges were also, how do we market that? The mediums were very minimal at some point of time. Then, of course, like as you spoke about Vogue or something like that, these magazines also started coming in India. So they also helped in marketing because they were already used to these luxury brands. Now in India, the magazine in India, the brands in India. So there's a buyer, there's a seller, there's a medium to market. So the whole kind of the whole circle comes in,
Hmm.
and that kind of helps out. The other factor is also we have to create the optician or our partner ready to sell this kind of goods,
Hmm.
because these were luxury goods and they were not used to selling luxury goods. So
Correct.
we have to educate them, train them. The point of sale display has to be very exciting, similar,
Attractive, yeah.
attractive, similar to what consumers have seen all across the world. So that came in as a next step. So training, product pricing, product availability, and of course after sales. These were,
Hmm.
and the fifth part which I talked about, the other elements of marketing, whether it's magazine and of course now internet, obviously. So these mediums have made it more acceptable, and now people are surfing and trying to understand what is luxury, where, and there is the high luxury where there's a strong, up in the face luxury, there's silent luxury. So we've got even silent luxury wearers in India. We've got enough people who are now looking at expensive products without a brand name
Hmm.
as well. So, I mean, India has now progressed a lot. And like Maybach, as I mentioned to you before, we are the world number one market for Maybach. So, this is very strange. But I mean, if you see, there is no reason why India cannot be the world number one. Usually it is China or India. I mean, when we talk about India's population, we have never been talking about India's population as a consuming class.
Yeah.
But the super rich in India is very, very rich now, and that's what gives us that position to be world number one for Maybach in India. In fact, now we are going one step ahead, and we're also doing the Maybach boutique.
Hmm.
We're launching it in end of December, early Jan in Bangalore. So that will be first Maybach boutique in India. We don't do just eyewear; we do eyewear, apparel, footwear, leather accessories, and all that as
Very
well. So
interesting.
that's one more part. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. So, in a world where everything happens online, I personally feel like it's very hard to buy glasses online, whether it's like, your reading or whatever, your regular glasses or sunglasses. I feel like it's something that I need to try on personally to see how it looks on my face. Uh, what do you think? Like, do most people have a similar thought process, or has it become, in terms of OPM sales, do most of the sales happen online, or is it happening through your distribution channels and physical stores and stuff like that?
So OPM is still a predominantly offline business,
Okay.
and you are right that it's not very easy for consumers to buy eyewear online because
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
mean,
fitment issues, size issues, color issues.
and how it suits your face, you don't know.
Correct.
Like, you might really like something when you see it, but then when you put it on, it might look completely different.
Sure. So you're right. I mean, this is a problem that exists for the industry, not necessarily for any brand in particular. But I mean, some spaces, this kind of a problem has been reduced. Uh, One of the spaces may be, not so expensive product line. People are okay to buy it and say, okay, theek hai, nahi chala to nahi chala. It's okay. I'm just kind of okay to buy two, three and manage it well because it's like more disposable.
Yeah.
So in this kind of price point, it's still okay. But as you go higher and higher, online, I mean, the growth is happening in online. I mean, but the base is very small.
Mm.
So we've seen recently, we heard, Lenskart talking about their online adoption becoming multiplier. They the fastest online growth has happened to them in the last couple of quarters or something like that. But it's still very small. It's still a negligible part all across the world. It is still more of a discovery platform,
Hmm.
but it is a necessary platform.
Right. And, in the growth of your brand OPM, can you tell us a few challenges that you faced? We've heard about how you grew the brand, some marketing strategies, but I'm sure along the way there must be challenges that you would have faced. So,
Sure.
can you tell us a little bit about that and learnings from those challenges?
I think one of the or few of the challenges that we faced were in the initial part a lot based on pricing.
Okay.
Okay, I mean it's a very critical factor because if you are in a when we started we were just a B2B company, right? So we had to rely on our trade partners. Uh, for at that point of time, whenever for any business, if you are a B2B business, you have limited flexibility and you operate within a confine of what is already there. And as soon as you start trying to do something new, there's a lot of resistance, and this resistance only time can take care of. It's not an instant. So pricing is one of the resistant factor that we got in early on in the business, because as I mentioned before, I was very product conscious and I'm still very product conscious. So with that, as being our key differentiator, we were more price than our competitors. So
Okay.
pricing was a key factor. The learning is stick to it. I mean, don't move
Don't
the
budge.
don't budge on the price, because
People will accept and
people will
adapt.
accept people will adapt. There are always the early adopters,
Hmm.
whether it's a consumer or there is an B2B partner. And if things work out over there, then everything starts one after the other. It's like a wheel. It starts slow, but then it starts moving fast. So one was that. The other big challenge we felt we got when we started our B2B business, or B2C business rather,
Hmm.
or I would call it B2B2C. So with we our first consumer partner was Shopper Stop.
Okay.
And when we started OPIUM Eyewear at Shopper Stop, I think first 3 days we had zero sales, and we were wondering whether we are any good, or what's really going to happen. And the problem is that when you have bad sales or zero sales, I don't know what is worse than zero. Your promoter at the store level gets terribly kind of upset,
Dejected.
dejected, upset. And then that is what kind of demotivates him and doesn't feel confident on the product at all.
Hmm.
So we waited for 3 days, and he was dejected, we were dejected, and we didn't know really what to do. And
And
then,
this was a launch in one of the Shopper Stop outlets?
yeah, only one. We
Huh.
started with four.
Huh.
The first one was Shopper Store at Malad, and I'm talking more of the Malad store because that's
Yeah.
where the product reached first.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what to do. And I mean, waiting game. We would call up and find out kuch hua, kuch hua, kuch hua. Nothing really happened. For 3 days, nothing happened. And then the fourth day onward, somebody came, somebody liked it, somebody tried it. And then we sold our first piece. That was, I think, 2200 at that point, which was an expensive piece, not our cheapest piece.
Correct.
Because we started at 1600 rupees that point of
Right.
time.
Right.
So it was 30% higher than that price point. So we sold that, and then it slowly moved, slowly moved, slowly moved. So the challenge that you got to face as well is that also time.
Hmm.
And you have to give time the respect. You can't rush into things, you can't rush out of things. So time is of a very key element, and you have to be in control of that. It can't be in control of you,
Sure.
because then you'll go mad, because it's just
Absolutely.
impossible. So that was our big kind of a challenge. What will happen if we don't succeed? We also thought, let us go and buy the product ourselves.
Hmm.
So I would, like, let me tell my friend, you go buy today, and then somebody else in the evening.
Huh.
This is also one trick. Okay, people do that as well.
You see other people buying the product, and
Yeah,
then you
you
get
see other
curious to
correct.
see
Yeah,
the
but it
product
was
yourself.
more for the fact of trying to tell the salesperson that the product is working.
Right.
Yeah. So fortunately, we didn't have to do it, but I think it gets done, and I would be willing to do it as well if needed.
Sure.
If needed be. So that was interesting. Then one of the biggest challenges which I got was also a success and a failure as a sense. I would tell you. So when we launched Colorphonia, which is what I'm wearing now, this is kind of relaunched last year.
Hmm.
But around 7 years back or so, we had launched Colorphonia as a sunglass brand, and it wasn't optical frame at all. And we made one style, which was a Wayfarer style, and we made in like around 40 colors.
Hmm.
So that was typically the world's largest single style collection. And Wayfarer is the most successful, Aviator and Wayfarer are the most successful sunglass styles. So we did this in multiple colors, and we thought we've cracked it because the sales went through the roof. And we ordered, we reordered, we ordered, we reordered. As soon as around 4 months or 5 months down the line, we started receiving products back. And what became our main success story became our biggest failure, because we had something which was like a soft rubbery finish on the
Hmm.
product,
Hmm.
and we didn't realize,
Just peeling.
it was peeling because of the heat in India.
Oh.
So consumers bought it, trade partners bought it, and whether it's consumer after 4 months or trade partners after 4 5 months, they started seeing the products peeling, and that completely destroyed us, because we had sold the highest in a single style ever. We had a great expectation of the business, which was doing superb. And then after 4 to 5 months, you have ordered, reordered, ordered, reordered, goods coming on in transit, and then we had to take everything back. And we took a call that, listen, what should we do? Should we do a replacement, which we tried in the beginning, and then we realized there's no point, so we took everything back. We shut the brand for 2 3 years, at least maybe a little bit more, and then we kind of,
Relaunched it.
yeah, we relaunched it in an optical logic recently, but we relaunched sunglass a few years back as well. But you have to take these hard calls.
Hmm.
I mean, if something is great and something went wrong with it, you have two options: either to just repair it or to just stop it.
Hmm.
And we took the hard call of stopping it, which means lot of returns, lot of money back, lot of refunds, and a lot of problem of people actually not buying our product subsequently,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they thought nahi aapka to
One
mal,
bad
yeah,
experience
one
is
bad
enough
experience,
to.
bas abhi nahi chahiye, abhi nahi chahiye, abhi nahi chahiye.
Correct.
So we lost, literally speaking, I would say we lost a year's sale just because of that. But that was also a big learning, big challenge.
Right.
What could we do? I mean, obviously we test products more,
Yeah, but
and we decided till now we've not brought in those rubber finishes again. Yeah. So I mean, these are some of the things, the challenges we faced,
sure.
and motivating trade teams. Our sales team is another challenge.
Right.
But that is typical for any sales organization. You got to have key people who understand they are key members of the team. If that happens, then it's kind of easier for you.
Right. Right. And what do you do to keep your brand relevant in today's fast changing times? I feel like every day there's a new trend. Every day some trend is going, some new trend is coming. It's a fast paced world, and especially the fashion industry. How does opium stay relevant day after day, month
Sure.
after month?
So I mean, when I spoke to about how we started the brand, about the key tenets of the brand being interesting, being adaptive, being changing forever. For us, change is the only constant. In that sense, in those typical ways. But what it really gave us is that, I mean, I found little opposite to what we've learned marketing as a base, that you need to stand for something,
Hmm.
but we decided we just stand for nothing but something which is interesting.
Hmm.
And the interestingness is always changing, so I'm repeating that again. So the way that we kind of be relevant is that we move with our consumers.
Right.
Yeah, we move with our consumers from X to Y. We also go back from Y to X, because there's a new consumer at X as well, and that kind of helps us to become relevant with age groups. So we are gender agnostic, we are age agnostic. We don't really, when I design the product, I don't really design something for someone.
Hmm.
I'm probably talking little opposite to what is that whole segmentation approach and stuff like that. But I mean, how do you stay relevant if you stand for something which is very, I would say, objective? Correct. I mean, you can be relevant if you stand for something subjective, which is the feeling.
Hmm.
Okay. So we talk about brands, we talk about brands, what they stand for. So we stand for a feeling rather than a, form. So I think if you differentiate between form and feeling, then you can become more relevant today, because today's consumer is really not looking to have the same thing forever in his life. He's not going to kind of remain with Bata shoes forever. He's not going to remain with opium forever as well. So many times internally also we have a dialogue with the team, and me especially, I have, should we even write opium on the product, on the outside of the product? Um, because I mean, why? Is it really necessary? I mean, we are a marketing company, we are a product company, we're a creative company, but we also have to understand what do consumers now look for.
Hmm.
If clothes come with limited prints on it or limited marks on it, and they come with the opposite with too much on it as well, the eyewear is also a question to make now. Should we
Absolutely.
have branding logos on the outside? Isn't the inside enough?
Yeah.
So we think of these kind of things. We're very open minded on those.
Yeah. So this brings me to my last segment, the finance segment. So running a business in the fashion and luxury space can have its financial ups and downs. So, what are a few sort of learnings or takeaways from OPM and your eyewear business as well?
So I would say, financially for a fashion business, you have to be always up to the dot in terms of your inventory. It's very, very necessary. In terms of your market intelligence, what is coming in, what looks to be becoming very exciting. And because fashion, is a very fragile business,
Hmm.
in the sense that fashion is something that you like today and don't like
Yeah,
tomorrow.
it's very fickle. You're
Very,
just
very, very fickle minded, right? So uh, what you got to do is you have to have a pulse on the market, and pulse on the consumer as well. So if you're a B2B brand, pulse on the trade channel first, and then on the consumer. If you're a B2C brand, straight pulse on the consumer. Because what happens at times is that if you are a brand like us, which is B2B and B2C, you have to have a dual situation. So
hmm.
when with our store, for example, we see that some of the styles are getting adopted much faster, but whereas with our partner stores, which are the opticians, they take a little bit of time. If I have a red sunglass, for example, I can sell it much easier and much faster in my own airport store, versus if there's a store, say for example in Juhu in Bombay, the red sunglass may take at least 3-4 months to sell.
Hmm.
Because one of the thought is that in our own stores, we have the flexibility of meeting the consumers directly, and consumers wanting things, and we can also show things which are under our control. Whereas a trade partner, he has many things, he has many brands, he has many other requirements, and his consumer is also very localized
Hmm.
to where he is. So if you're a mixed kind of operating brand between B2B and B2C, then you'll have to have that kind of a different plan for the trade business, different plan for the consumer business. So inventory management is a very key aspect. Trend forecasting is a very key
Hmm.
aspect to basically do a better inventory and better production planning. The other part is also a good MIS system. You can invest in a good merchandising system, product merchandising
Hmm.
system, which helps you to understand. A lot of AI tools are now available, which helps you forecast. But one of the other very, very close and very important thing is that gut feel is very important.
Hmm.
I mean, there is no escape to gut feel,
Hmm.
because systems can give you benefits up to a level, but there is always a sixth sense to a human being and sixth sense to a brand and what you are. That can really make you much more successful. On the other side, keep your cost under control, in general, but splurge at times when necessary for something which can really be necessary to make your brand much bigger and much more talked about. So I'll give an example on our general OPM merchandise versus our limited edition merchandise currently, which is Iron Man.
Right.
So we have really splurged on our Iron Man product in terms of product costing, in terms of packaging costing, and all that. So it's a part of the budgetary effect. It's something we budget for, because it's not a profit item, but it's a strong market value item,
Hmm.
strong marketing logic as well, strong awareness as well. So do that. Don't have the same yardstick for everything. A product person, a marketing person, and a finance person. I mean, ideally, they will have conflict in many zones, but each one has his own benefit at some point of time. So don't make a one rule fits all situation. In terms of other stuff, like the whole budget of the year and stuff like that, I'll just kind of share something very personal to me, which I have shared along and I've experienced along actually. So, I mean, businesses are, like your daily life, they are no different. So, I'll give you an example of one of the experiences I had, which I talk routinely in whenever I talk to people, including at office, at home, friends, or family, and any other business opportunity as well. Is, I've come from a typical Gujarati family, very protective family, mother being very protective. At 45, I just bought my first cycle, and very strange as it sounds, but because I just want to do something exciting, maybe midlife crisis or whatever you would call it. I want to do something exciting. So I bought a cycle against my mother's wishes, and she was irritated. And on the eighth day, I went cycling, and I managed to reach on the 14th day from that day, 8 plus 6 to Goa. Now, that is kind of stupid on my sense of my upbringing that I would cycle all the way to Goa. It wasn't something that was unplanned, to be honest. It was a planned call. So there was enough safety and all that. It was a group of people that I went with, nobody that I knew. Just hopped on to a group and cycled till Goa. But what I'm trying to tell you is that, this is about Goa is 600 kilometers. The first thing that comes to my mind is that, am I crazy? The first thing that comes to anybody who knows me is that, is Ronak crazy? But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. But when you look at life like that and look at business like that, what we realize at the end of the time that we finished, it was 600 kilometers. It was 6 days, so it is 100 kilometers
A
per
day.
day. Within the 100 kilometers, you wake up, have your tea, you do 30 kilometers before breakfast, you do another 30 kilometers before lunch, then you have your lunch break, then you sleep for 2 hours, then before your evening break, you have another 30-40 kilometers. So you basically split up like
Breaking it up.
30, 30, 30. So it's 100 is done, right? So all you got to think about is 30. So we think of 30 every day, then we think of food before 30, food after 30, fun of going through a very picturesque route and forgetting what 30 is all about. So business is all about like this as well. Your annual plan is cut off into half yearly plans, quarterly plans, monthly plans, weekly plans. You look at the small part,
Yeah.
don't really look at the very big picture. You plan the big picture but implement the small situations.
Right.
And that's what is a key learning that I want to share in my life, which is the real example. And that's how I tell my sales guys as well. You have targets, don't get afraid. Okay, any of the target is achievable if you really break down. I mean, it's a simple wisdom. All of us, all sales consultants and people who've been successful talk about this breakdown of targets.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Correct? So nothing new. But what I experienced without coming into sales through a real life situation is about cycling, is about this. Similar experience happened to me when I did my Everest base camp, trek. Same thing, you have to think of two parts. One is when you reach there and then when you come back. So exactly, it's already into half. Then you have days, then you have uphill, downhill. So you break it up, break it up, break it up. And what you will also realize that in this journey, there are so much there are so many instances where you forget about the whole thing. You are just in a meditative stage.
Yeah.
That's how is business as well.
Yeah.
If you start doing in a good manner, then the wheel starts rolling on its own. And the beginning is difficult, the end is also difficult to be. Even you have to break somewhere, it's difficult to break. But once it is into motion, things move on their own. You don't need to do the same effort everywhere and every time. So budgets, whether it is plans, financial plans, non-financial plans, I think this is very important to break it up.
Yeah.
And one other key aspect also to any budding entrepreneur, uh, I learned this a little hard way. I don't want to discuss more about it, but also there's a power of savings in small. You have to plan to keep a part of your cash flow separately, and you will not even feel that you've built up a chest when you really want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that small part, they kind of compound so
Absolutely.
very well, and you will really not even require that. What is the small part, you decide.
Yeah.
But also keep on changing the small part based on your needs. You can also reduce that smaller to even smaller or increase that smaller. But that chest that you have on the side,
You don't realize how large
yeah,
it becomes one fine
very
day.
very large. You can have your biggest break by that, whether it's your any asset that you want to buy, whether you want to invest somewhere else as well, whether it's a business asset, personal asset. But the power of that small thing, whether it's a small targets or whether small savings, I think that is a key I want to leave you guys with. The small target I learned very successfully and I have implemented successfully, but the small savings, I would say I have not been very successful in that, but better late than never. So
Yeah.
that is very very necessary.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm just giving a personal example. My mom was investing in my name ever since I turned 18. The minute I earned my first salary, my mom forced me to invest a part of it into SIPs. And then it just became a habit. As in when I got a promotion, salary increase, savings also increased. So it just kept on happening.
Correct.
And gradually, one fine day, right before COVID, I decided to quit my job. But one thing I was certain was that I don't want to quit if I can't be independent.
Correct.
And that's when I actually looked back at my savings and looked back at my investments and actually analyzed it. And I was like, suddenly this number
Not
is
bad.
looking great.
Not bad, huh?
So I said, I feel like I can take this leap of faith. I can quit my job and I'll be okay for a few months, even a year or so at least.
Correct.
So I feel like it's very important to save. I mean, like you
Sure.
said, whether it's small, whether it's large, just start somewhere and just keep doing it.
So I have a simple thing. If it's a businessman, for example, you can still just open a separate account. It's like your piggy bank, It's the same principle. So you could do that, and that will, then put into SIP or whatever you want. I have another example of a friend of mine. Since the time he started his first job till today, and is super successful in life, he decided that he will have an X percentage
Hmm.
of his
Income.
income into five stocks, and those five stocks are still remain the same. Okay. And that's compounded like mad and crazy since last 25 years. Probably his first salary was 25-30,000. Now it is like super multipliers of that. But if in case at that point of time, if he put like 2% of it, he's still putting 2% of it now as well. But that amount of money, I can't even tell you
Yeah.
how big that has
No, I
become.
can
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah. So it's about the discipline and it's about just consistency and just go on doing it day
Yeah.
after day. I mean, it's hard to start, but once you've started, I feel like it's something that, like you said, like your business, it has to keep rolling. Like
Correct.
once the difficult part is over, then the ball will keep rolling.
Yeah. There is
And
an
with
auto mode in business.
exactly. So
There
even
is,
with
I mean, yeah.
investments, I really do believe that it's just about starting, and those first 2, 3, 4 months will probably hit you, and you'll probably be like, I'm having to cut back on like lifestyle expenses. But then once you get into the habit of it, 10 years later, when you look back, you'll only be thankful
Sure.
that you did this.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. No, this was such a wonderful chat. Thanks for being here with us and thanks for doing this.
Thank you very much. I'm feeling already old. I did my first podcast and it's already finished. So I'm kind of seemingly very experienced, but I think you made it very comfortable for me, and I'm very happy it happened, with you guys. So, guys, if you really want to understand how people have built up their lives through their businesses, I mean, this is a very great opportunity for you to actually go onto the FinCocktail site, Instagram page, YouTube channel. They have some amazing content, and really, I mean, for me as well, I've been a part of their audience in that sense, and there's no age for it. I mean, at any point of time, you can learn, earn, and understand financial freedom and independence from FinCocktail. So please like, share, and subscribe to the channel.